Welcome to episode 121 of the Band Hive Podcast. It is time for another episode of the Band Hive Podcast. My name is James Cross, and I'm not done with solo episodes just yet. And on that same note, you are not done with your marketing for your release once that release comes out. You might be wondering why, and well, that's what we're going to talk about today on this episode of the podcast. Real quick, before I jump in though, if you aren't already subscribed in your favorite podcasting app, please do that now. You're probably listening in that app, so go ahead and hit subscribe. Or if you're not listening in an app, you're listening on our website or somewhere else, just go to bandhive.rocks/listen, and you can find our podcast in every major podcast app and subscribe in whichever one you prefer, or all of them if you feel like you really want to stay caught up with our episodes. But I don't know who would need to listen to the same thing, 20 different times. So I wouldn't blame you if you only subscribe in one, just whichever one you listen to most. Please go ahead and do that. Again, if you're not already in your podcast app, you can go to bandhive.rocks/listen to find our listing in every major podcast app. Now let's talk about why you're not done when your song, EP, or album comes out. Let's set the scene. You've spent months writing your songs, weeks in the studio, and now it's time to release your music. Congratulations, you're done. Nope, I'm kidding. You're not even close to finished, but this is how I see a lot of local bands operate. They announce that they're recording the album, they record it, they mix it, and then immediately release it, and that's it. They don't say anything else. Once it's out there, and they are relying on pure luck. They just expect somebody to find it and that fans will share it around and they will get more people to listen to it just because it's out there. But the unfortunate news is that there are 60,000 songs being added to Spotify every single week. Now that covers all genres across the globe. So you're not competing with 60,000 songs, but you are competing with quite a few songs in your genre and your market. This is absolutely the wrong way to release an album. When you're releasing your music, a lot of marketing needs to be done in advance of the release date. But if you stop as soon as that release date comes around, you're losing all that momentum that you've been working on building up. So if you've been posting daily for a month leading up to the album, and then you just stop, you're losing that momentum. A lot of people won't listen on that first day. But if you keep reminding them, hey, it's out now, they might come around and eventually listen to it, and they might like it so much that they save it to their library if they didn't already pre-save it. Really, once you've hit that release date, this is the time to hype up your release more than ever. Obviously, you want to keep talking about it on social media, and one of the easiest ways to do this is by sharing fan reactions. Anybody who posts about it, anybody who comments on it, share those. Take a screenshot and share that. Somebody tags you in a story. Repost that story. This is free content. I see so many bands not reposting stories. It's like, but why? You want people to know that others are talking about you. You're always looking for content. So if somebody gives you free content, share that. That is the perfect situation right there. If other people are making content for you, spread the word about that. Same thing if you get any press coverage, whether it's a Spotify playlist or a blog or an interview or whatever, share that. Just repost it. First of all, the people who shared your music in the first place on their playlist or their site or wherever will be really happy that you are sharing their content. Additionally, this just shows that people care about your music because somebody else shared it and you're saying, hey, look, this person liked my music enough to share it. This is what's called social proof. It's the same thing as reviews on Amazon or another online marketplace. People see, oh, wow, all these people liked this, so maybe I should give it a try and maybe I'll like it. You can also keep posting any behind-the-scenes photos and clips of yourself in the studio that you collected while you were recording and writing. It's really easy just to get that content and share it. I have to do a shout out to two bands who do a really, really great job with not giving up once their music is out. The first one is Infinite Signal, who was actually on episode 19 of the Band Hive podcast. It was called How to Make Your Band Stand Out Using Tactics the Major Labels Have Mastered with Infinite Signal. And then the other band is also a member of the Band Hive community, First Frontier from the UK. They are doing a great job right now. They've released 2 singles in a row about a month apart, and they are staying active on social media between the releases, and they have shares coming in constantly. It seems like every day I see somebody else shared their song on a playlist or a blog, and First Frontier is reposting that. So it's really good to see members of the Bandhive community who are just going out there and sharing their music and then sharing the posts of other people who have shared their music. Because like I was saying earlier, that is free content. So shout out to First Frontier and shout out to Infinite Signal. Now, aside from sharing people who have shared your music, what else can you do after your release? To really get into this, we have to make sure we go back to when you were first writing and when you were first recording. This is going to sound difficult, but trust me, it's not. You can set it and forget it. Film everything. No matter what you're doing, if you and your bandmates are together, have a camera running at all times. Then if there's that funny moment or that heartwarming moment or just you all have great memories of a moment together, you have that on camera and you can share it with your audience when the time is right. I'm not saying share it right away. This is content that you can save for later. Same thing goes when you're playing shows, record them. Always have at least 2 cameras going, one drum cam and one stage cam. And you can use that live footage in future clips, whether it's a promo clip for that same release or a later release or just another tour. You can use that content. Then, when you have this content, catalog it and organize it in a way that makes it really easy to refer back to in the future. So for example, say you have a folder that's like studio sessions, a folder that's photo shoots, a folder that is live shows, and in each of those you have folders organized by date, so you can say, okay, in the live shows folder, we have another folder from our show in San Diego on March 12th of 2022. There, it's right there. You can find it easily. Additionally, a lot of apps let you add tags to your files so you can search them later and easily find things. For example, if you're searching for a picture of your bass player, you can tag it with the bass player's name and then search for their name, and that makes it a lot easier to find. Third is don't share all your content before the release. If you share all your content before the release, of course you're going to run out of things to share. So keep some of your content for after the release. And this could be years. I see bands who are sharing stuff years later. Enter Shikari just did this. They had footage of the A Flash Flood of Color album release show from 10 years ago. They just shared it this year around the 10th anniversary of that album. That's amazing. They literally 10 years ago said, we're going to get this footage and we're not going to share it. Now, I don't know if they plan to keep it for 10 years without sharing, but that's what they ended up doing. The fourth thing is you can run contests for your fans to win merch or tickets. And share this. Post about this. Do it at least a few times. You don't put up just one post for a contest. You put up a post, and then you share stories about it every day or two to keep reminding people, hey, if you haven't entered yet, you can go do that now. Then when somebody wins and claims their prize, make a post about that. Ideally, you have a photo of them with the prize. Either, if it's merch, they're holding up the shirt and you can post that, or if it's a ticket, they take a selfie at the show with you, ideally, and you can post that. But no matter what, this gives you more content, and that's the goal here, having enough content so you're not running dry as soon as your release comes around. The fifth thing is find creative ways to incorporate your music into your behind-the-scenes videos. This way, it's a reminder of, hey, this is the music that's out now, and this is what it looked like when we were making this. If you're rehearsing for a show, that's content. If you're writing a new song, that's content. You can put your music over those videos to really push your brand out there more. And remember, it goes back to always document everything. So rehearsals, yep, camera's running. Writing a new song, yeah, camera's running. And that has the added benefit too of if you come up with a cool riff or some cool lyrics and you can't remember them later, well, guess what? Now you just go back to the video and you can see what you played. You have the information right there that you were looking for. You forgot that riff? Well, now you can learn it from yourself. There are so many benefits to recording everything. Number 6 is absolutely do not post when you first start writing or recording. The process takes some time, so if you start sharing content right when you're in the studio or right when you're just writing the songs, it's going to be months till your EP or album comes out, and the hype is going to be gone. If you post in July, hey, we're in the studio, and your album doesn't come out till next May, people have forgotten. They don't care. But if you don't say anything on social media about being in the studio, and instead, come March, you post, hey, look at this studio shot. People know you've been in the studio, and you have 2 months to ramp up to your release, which is a good time frame. 8 weeks, that's pretty good. And that way you really have that nice, tight amount of time to dump all your content out into the world and really get the hype going, rather than spreading out that same amount of content over, what would that be, 5, 10 months? From July to May, 10 months, instead of March to May, 2 months. So wait until you're ready to start the marketing campaign for your release and then start dropping your content. Having that shorter time frame will help people retain interest in what you're sharing, and it will mean you don't have to create as much content because you're only going to be posting daily for 2 months instead of 10 months. Ideally, you'll be able to share that content daily or at least every other day for 2 months before the release and 1 month after the release if it's an EP or album. If it's a single, 2 weeks after the release is fine, as long as you have another single coming up the next month that you can start pushing. So essentially, every single is going to have 4 weeks of promotion, 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the release. The other thing is, when you're touring around the time of a release, that helps you create content. Anytime you're on the road, again, document everything. You should document every single day on the tour with photos and video, and then every day share some pieces of that. So if you were in Albuquerque, New Mexico yesterday, make a post saying, hey, thanks so much to the crowd in Albuquerque, you guys look amazing, and post a picture of the crowd. Same thing goes if you have any funny videos, like, oh, look, we were in a truck rest stop and we saw like this giant iguana. Here's just a cool video of an iguana we found on tour. That's the kind of thing people like to see. They want something that's not just self-promotion. But don't post everything that you document on those days. Save the rest for later and put that in your catalog of content so you can go back and find it. I think I've made a pretty compelling argument here, but if you're not convinced, go back and listen to episode 19 with Infinite Signal, because we really dug into depth about why they released their music the way they did. And in my opinion, that's really the way to go. And when I look at successful releases, even if it's a DIY success versus unsuccessful releases, this is one of the biggest differences I see. The bands who take their marketing seriously are the ones who do well. So if you want to listen to that episode, you can find it at bandhive.rocks/19, or you can go back in your favorite podcast app to episode 19. Again, the title on that is How to Make Your Band Stand Out Using Tactics the Major Labels Have Mastered with Infinite Signal. So episode 19, or go to bandhive.rocks/19. That's the number 19. That does it for another episode of the Bandhive podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. I just edited this entire episode and then realized I hadn't actually recorded an outro, so here I am, like 2 or 3 weeks later, got a haircut, different shirt, and I'm back to record this outro. Of course, you're not going to notice any of that if you're not listening on YouTube, but that's aside from the point. Just wanted to say that this is one of the most important lessons that a band can learn, is hold on to your content and put it out at the exact right time. Because if you're just dumping out content in real time, you're going to have times when there's a lot of content and times when there's a drought, and you don't want that to happen. So always be careful with your content. Build up a library or a backlog of content, and then you can put that out over time to make sure that you never experience one of those droughts. Let's call it a reservoir. You have a content reservoir, and that is stuff that you can go back to and share, whether you've shared it previously or not. And this way, you're always posting. Always be creating. It's not like the sales world says where it's always be closing, it's always be creating. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back with another brand new episode next Tuesday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, right here in your favorite podcast app. Until then, I hope you have a great week, stay safe, and of course, as always, keep rocking.